January 3rd, 2023. I get it right on my first try. Saying it in a video. First video of the new year. I didn't really sign out with a last video of 2022 like a lot of people do. I guess I was playing with ChatGPT like the rest of the world. My last few videos were me interviewing is an Ansible Sensible and stuff like that. And that is not what I'm here to talk about on this particular recording session at all. Amazingly, it is tidying my website back into shape. MikeLev.in. MikeLev.in. My name is my website. And it can actually cutting right to it, animating SVGs is pretty rock solid reliable. It works on desktop across a variety of browsers, and it works on mobile across Safari, Chrome, and Edge, which I tested on the same phone that I'm recording this video. So animated SVGs, such as rotating a logo, work solidly with high enough performance, with few enough rendering weirdness, that has replaced my use of anim GIFs, animated GIFs from the olden days of AOL. And when you actually had to say animated GIF to specify it from a regular GIF, people just say GIF these days, which refers to all types of animated video-like clips. But an actual anim GIF, animated GIF from the AOL standard of yore, is what I use to make my logo rotate reliably on the web up until recently. And now I can work it into the navigation of my site. I can have it in line with an H1 headline, with the H1 headline being drawn from a Google font collection, knowing it's going to render reliably, and I make that font opaque, and I have really, really tight, solid color control. 24-bit naturally, but now it's really 36-bit, because you really can reliably do a lot with that last set of bits for alpha transparency, right? The age of animated alpha transparency is here. Soft edge drop shadow things flowing onto the screen, no problem. This is new. I worked for a company called Scala Multimedia, from the Amiga computer days, that made their transition successfully over to PC land. And instead of competing in the macro media flash market, because you see where that goes in the crosshairs of Apple, they competed on the digital signage front, using this kind of animated screen stuff for 24/7 reliable signage, digital electronic signage. The naming of the industry was in flux or questioned. For many years, it kind of sort of settled on digital signage, and there were a number of companies making their business on this niche industry at the time of using flat screen TVs as signs. Now it's like everywhere, you don't even think about it anymore, and they might not go up as traditional flat panel TVs anymore. Basically the same stuff coming from consumer factory lines, just going into commercial and industrial products. They might have like modular tile systems of LEDs, because now that it's things like LEDs, and now that it's gone completely digital and it's economies of scale, it can go up like wallpaper. And all the software and systems used to control it is all over the board, probably as much today as it ever was. But one of the companies that competed in that space came from the lineage of Commodore Amiga computer programmers and people. They were Norwegians originally. John Boehmer. And And that was one of my first jobs coming out of college. First, I ran a check cashing store. Those stories I have. But then I went to work for Scala, lived in a few different places, and traveled all over the world for them. Visited the Microsoft campus to give training, visited the Apple campus, for I forget anymore what it was for. And I did work for Commodore shortly before, which is where the connection was made to Scala. So digital signage for maybe 10 of my 25 or 30 professional years. Maybe about a third of my professional career has gone into digital signage, various aspects of being at a company who does that. Not the software programming for it. I was not one of the programmers. I knew the programmers, know many of them to this day, and they are quite a group of impressive people, right? They really were the wizards of the early days of the computer industry. People in that group had helped write the AOL and Prodigy software, for example, among many other things. And I was honored. It was a privilege to work with and amongst those people, to kind of know them as one of the college interns, a student, co-op student who just kind of tagged along for the adventure, right? It was a lot of adventure. And that was in 1988. I graduated high school in 88. And in that same year, I went to work for Commodore. And in that same year, when I was 18 years old, my childhood house growing up was sold. So it was the age of, tectonic plate sliding, transition, extinction events of one way of living and seeing the world and the creation of new. And wow, was I taken for a spin. It was not easy for me to accommodate the dynamic changes in my life. I have come since to kind of regain my legs and regain my stability and, fly straight and level, sort of, but more like, why fly straight and level when you haven't done some acrobatics yet? So, after college, I had a stint with Commodore. No, Commodore was during college. After college, I had a stint with Scala in a company called Profit 21 in Yardley, Pennsylvania, where I was part of another software company, going from digital signage this time to enterprise resource management, enterprise resource planning, ERP, ERM, CRM, customer relationship management software. And these were all junior versions of what was referred to in the days as the BOPs, Bon, Oracle, PeopleSoft, and SAP. But they provided IBM RS-6000 based solutions for the Unix people. And they provided NT, Microsoft NT SQL Server, client server solutions for those who wanted a different computer architecture, more modern in many people's opinions. So I was there while Profit 21, I guess, came out with their Microsoft software, and there was a big schism in the company because a lot of their old customers were staying on their Unix software forever, their RS-6000 stuff, AS400, IBM mainframes and mini computer type things. Nutty stuff. Sorry about the shakiness, but that's part of me doing YouTube videos in the first place. If I wasn't just shooting them whenever, I wouldn't be shooting them at all. So you got bounce and terrible audio. 4 or 5 year old phone tech. I should really upgrade my iPhone at some point. Derp, 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 derp. Think. I should cushion this. It would go a very long way to not be bouncing on the dashboard. So, that being said, I get back to career all over the place. Bounce this way and that. Various encounters with Unix along the way. Various encounters with Linux along the way. Heartbreak Amiga computer, fall in love with, get good at, start making a career on, say bye-bye to the Amiga computer, which had a lot of Unix-like things because it was based on, I believe, the TOPS operating system, BCPL based, the same thing Unix was really originally based on. So Unix came out from the Bell Labs folks in 1970 and was improved upon and used as a model for many things since. But the TOPS operating system was 1976 from the UK. The guy's name, I'll remember it eventually. But based on that operating system, the Amiga computer operating system was built. So it got preemptive multitasking with no memory management, a formula for lots of crashing of your computer. Amigas crashed a lot. And with crashing computers, while you were doing things you really cared about, like you didn't want it to crash, you prayed for it to not crash. You might be rendering some 3D animation from Lightwave 3D. So, 10 hours into a ray traced rendering that might be used for Babylon 5 or Blake 7 or one of the other hokey sci-fi programs of the day that used the Amiga computer plus the video toaster for their graphics, you prayed it didn't crash. And it did crash. It crashed a lot. So you developed a sort of emotional resiliency. You don't rely upon the automatic memory protection and garbage collection of modern computers quite so much when you came up through the Amiga, or if generally you were a C programmer who did your own garbage collection, housekeeping, heaps and stacks and pointers and all that. I never was very good at that. I was the type who's like, I am using the computer to solve problems like this, not to have another set of problems like this. First, step one, get organized. Step one, get organized. Step one, get organized. Nested all the way down to the transistors. C feels a little bit that way. Truth is, it's not. It's really much more high level than some of the alternatives that people have been forced to use over the years, like assembler. I always forget which. But I guess assembler is the language for assembly, something along those lines. But then even just Lisp with all its parentheses and S functions, S links, S lists, linked lists of tuples build almost everything. Almost everything can be built up from linked lists of tuples. And so Lisp and many sub-dialects of Lisp that layer up in progressively more specialized domain-specific languages like CSS, cascading style sheets, HTML. Now, these things are not written actually in Lisp. They just collectively express the same spirit of layering up many domain-specific sub-languages. Go read Paul Graham's essays. I believe the one, if I can remember, a language called, is it Blob or Blurred or something along those lines? Every language is inferior to the meta language that can create them all from scratch. That's Lisp. Someone's coming to almost a stop in front of me in a lane without emergency blinkers, turn signals. I do not like living on this island. Okay, so we wrap up this video by bringing it home. Eventually you will encounter things that stick, that don't require you to go down nested rabbit holes just to hello world. Hello world will come naturally, and everything will click for you. And when it does, you may find something which for you has come to play a similar role as what Linux, Python, Vim, and Git have come to play for me. Now, what I recommend is following along on my journey as I walk you through reconstructing the same experience I had with the benefit of not having to figure it all out from scratch. Me at 52 years old, laying it out for you. Take advantage of that. And that's about it. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon. Happy New Year. Don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up, smash the bell, and all the other things us YouTubers have to say.